This morning we're talking about cervical cancer, cancer of the cervix. Our doctor is excited because I said cervical cancer instead of cervical, which I would normally pronounce it as. But yes, I'm speaking to Dr. Priscilla Appiah, who's a practitioner at Papi's Cervical Cancer Initiative. And we're going all into cervical cancer. What about it? Dispelling all of this. You're welcome to the CB3. I love your smile this morning.
Thank you.
You were telling me about the first case you saw, cervical cancer case you saw. Can you scare us a little bit more?
Okay, so that was during my first year housemanship, during my obstetrics and gynecology rotation. And then I came across this woman. She was very young, 33 years old, newly married.
33?
Yes, 33. Newly married, had just had a child or something like that. And then she came in with advanced cervical cancer. And I found it very scary because this is a cancer that we can prevent and we can cure if we catch it early, you see. But even up to the point that she died several weeks later, she still couldn't believe that she had cervical cancer. She thought it was spiritual and all of that. So that really gingered me to start an initiative on increasing awareness, making screening accessible, and then training health professionals on how to prevent and screen. Okay,
perfect. So now that we've scared some people enough, I think that's enough to tell us to actually, take cervical cancer very seriously as women. Certainly men can't get it, so
no.
But yes, let's talk a bit more about what it is. What is cervical cancer? What is the cancer of the cervix? Okay. What is it?
So when we say cervical cancer, we are talking about cancer of the cervix. Now, for those of you who don't know, the cervix is the lowest part of the womb. Okay. So a typical woman has a vulva, the outside part that you see, the vagina, which is the canal inside, and then you go to the womb. So at the base of the womb is the cervix, and that is where the cancer occurs. Now, the thing about cervical cancer is that it's one of the few cancers that we can totally prevent because we know what exactly causes it. And then we call it a human papilloma virus.
Right.
Now, this is a group of viruses that can be high risk or low risk. High risk are the ones that cause cancer, low risk are the ones that cause other things that do not become cancer, like genital warts.
Genital what?
Yes. Genital warts.
Warts. Oh, right, right. Okay.
Yes. So that is also caused by HPV, but the low risk. But you only get cervical cancer if you have persistent infection with high risk HPV.
Okay, that's quite a mouthful, but I'll take it easily. Are there various types or variations of the cervical cancer?
Yes, I mean, depending on the cell type that is involved, you can have glandular or squamous or whatever.
Okay.
But essentially, almost 99.7% of cervical cancer cases, we find HPV.
Okay.
And in those 99.7, about 70% is HPV 16 and 18. Yeah, so those are very high risk. Now, remember I said it's caused by persistent infection with high risk HPV. The thing about HPV is that by the time you're 30, 40, about 80% of people have been exposed to the virus.
Yeah.
You see, but the body is able to clear it and then take it out completely. Now, when it stays and then your body doesn't take it out completely, it persists, like I said. And then you can start to get the cancer.
Okay, but how are you exposed to the virus in the first place?
Okay, so there are sexual means and then non-sexual means. Okay, so the sexual means either through penile-vaginal sex, oral sex, anal sex, and then manual sex.
Okay.
Like using your hands, your fingers, all of that. But then non-sexually, if you share underwear with somebody who has it, you can get it. If you share sex toys, you can get it. And then if you use an instrument surgically that hasn't been sterilized properly, you can also get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where does this HPV, human papilloma
virus
where does it exist in the first place? Because I feel if you're saying through the panties, etc., it means it came from somewhere and there's residents in there. So how?
That I can't tell you how the first HPV came about, but what I can tell you is that it's spread through contact, direct contact. So you don't get it through the air, you don't get it through water. But then if someone has the virus and then you come into contact with them, you can get it. You see, and with the contact, people seem to think that if you use condoms, because of the sexual method of getting it, if you use condoms, it protects you, but it doesn't protect you completely because the condom only covers so much. And then you have the rest of the groin available.
It.
You get it?
Yeah.
So wherever it comes into contact with, that's where it stays.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't go through the blood.
Okay, so from what you are saying, I'm trying to draw a correlation. If one woman doesn't have it and another does, and she perhaps, so they perhaps share a partner, it's possible that the partner picks from one and carries it to the other?
Definitely, yes.
I see. So at the end of the day, having multiple
sexual partners is a risk factor. So the most important risk factor is having high risk HPV.
Okay.
But other risk factors could sexual habits. So then if you have multiple partners, you have a higher risk of getting it. If you have one partner who has multiple partners, it still increases your risk.
Chain.
Exactly. And then if you smoke, you also have increased your risk of getting it. If you have any condition that reduces your immunity, it increases your chance.
So I dare say we should just check our appetites.
Multiple children.
Yeah.
I mean, the thinking is that you've had more sex, so you've been more exposed. So more children, multiplicity is also a risk factor.
Oh, I see. Is it hereditary? There's
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
It's not hereditary whatsoever.
Not.
It's just contact.
Yes.
So the fact that perhaps, God forbid, the fact that a woman has it doesn't mean that she will pass it on to her children.
No, it's unlikely.
Okay. Yes. That's at least good to know. You've mentioned the risk factors. Let's talk about the symptoms. How do I know that I have cervical cancer if I do?
Okay, so with cervical cancer, it's a very slow growing cancer. And in the early stages, you usually have no symptoms. The only time you start to have symptoms is if it started to advance and then spread to other areas. So later on, if you start to get maybe a very offensive vaginal discharge, it could be a sign. If you start to lose weight suddenly, your abdomen is starting to swell. If you start to bleed after menopause, or if you are not menopausal and then in between your periods you are noticing some abnormal bleeds, it could be a sign. And then it could also be after sex, you see, because when there's contact, it causes the cells to bleed. I
see. This takes me to IUDs. Intrauterine conceptive.
I was expecting that.
Devices. No, it has to come because there was a press release from the Society of Obs and Gynae practitioners, and they said IUDs cannot cause.
They do not cause cancer.
It is the virus that causes it.
Yes.
Okay. Can we speak a little more to this?
Okay. I'm not sure what else to add on except that IUDs actually in some studies have been shown to be a little protective. So they don't cause cervical cancer at all. What they can cause could be some form of cervical, maybe inflammation, but that is not cancer. Okay. IUDs don't cause cervical cancer.
Okay, great. Yes. There's another misconception or there's another concern. How about white, what we call white? When you start getting white, someone would actually think, or candidiasis, someone would think that they have cervical cancer. Is it a cause for concern?
No, not at all. In any way. Candida is a fungal infection that we treat with antifungal medication.
Yes. But how do they know?
Correlation.
How do they know the difference?
Okay. If you're not a health practitioner, if you don't have any health background, it'll be difficult to tell. But then most of the time, for people with Candida, there's age, there's a discharge. It has nothing to do with cervical cancer. So you go to the hospital, then we test, and then we see what is going on. You get it. Most of the time, once we take the slides, we can see that it's fungal.
Fungal, okay. So you're encouraging people to actually go to the hospital and not just sit at home and say, I have cervical cancer.
Exactly. And not just tell me you have an appointment and then you do it later. You know.
Okay, I see. All right. Now you mentioned that it can be cured.
Yes.
If we catch what stage early. Exactly? Tell us all about it.
Okay, so for most cervical cancers, because it takes such a long time to grow, once we're able to find that there are some abnormal cells in your cervix, we can treat it. And it depends on the stage. I can't say that stage 1, 2, 3, 4, we cure it, stage 5, and then we don't cure it. But I know that stage 4, 5, definitely there is no cure for you. But in stage 1, stage 2, once we're able to isolate that it is cervical cancer, we can't even take out the cervix. And then that cures it if it hasn't spread anywhere.
But if you've taken out the cervix, what are the implications on our reproductive health?
Fertility. There is
fertility.
Some impact on it. But the thing about medicine is that we don't make decisions based on just the disease. We take the whole person in totality.
Okay.
You see, and then we discuss the options that there are.
Okay.
If we think that this could be more, I don't know, dangerous to your health, and I mean, we weigh the two. Would you rather have a child or would you rather die? That is if we can help it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see.
So we don't just decide that at this stage you take it out and we don't care what you do.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that.
Can someone have a baby when she has cervical cancer?
Yes, you can have a baby. Now there are different ways you can have a child.
Okay.
Aside natural conception.
Okay.
You get it. We have other options. We could do surrogacy. That is if we are taking out your womb, we're taking out your cervix.
I want my baby from my body.
Then that really depends on the stage that we find the person.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends.
So you can have a baby, but it always depends on the case.
Yes.
And how far you've gone with the cancer as well. I have other concerns also. Someone says that the HPV in itself can just clear on its own.
Yes, it can. Yes.
How?
So remember I said that by adulthood, most people have come into contact with the virus.
Yes.
About 80% of people. So the body has an innate immune system. Like we have these soldiers that fight infections that come in. Okay. So when the body gets exposed to the virus, it clears it. But the problems come when the body is not able to completely clear the virus and it stays for a long time. So yes, you can clear it, but the problems arise with the ones that are not cleared.
That are not cleared. And how can it be cleared in the first place?
Antibodies.
Just like that.
Bodies, yes.
And then it just takes.
Sometimes most people who have HPV don't even know they have it.
Right.
So you don't know that your body is fighting this infection.
I'm thinking about foods. You know, about foods. Can you take foods to get rid of HPV? You know, they talk about cranberry juice
for UTIs.
Yes, you see, a lot of women actually really take cranberry juice to clear the system.
Okay, cranberry juice is good for preventing urinary tract infections, yes.
Okay.
But there is no particular food that helps to clear HPV infections. However, if you generally live a healthy life, if you exercise, you eat well, there's less junk in your food, you are able to mount a better immune response than somebody who's not eating well. Right.
Okay. So let me try and recap what we've said so far. There's a whole lot to take. Cervical cancer can be contracted through sex.
Yes.
And not through sex.
Yes.
You can contract through...
HPV can be contracted.
Oh, pardon me. HPV, thank you.
Yes.
HPV, which is a virus that...
causes
cervical cancer can be contracted through sex or through other means like sharing panties, toys, and other things.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And it can be cured.
Yes.
And it depends on the stage.
Yes.
And beyond a certain stage,
we can only treat until, make you comfortable, a person comfortable until whatever happens.
If you take out the womb completely, there's no likelihood.
It really depends on the stage. Because sometimes it spreads to the vagina, it can spread to the abdomen.
Really?
So, yes.
What? I was thinking it's only the cervix.
No. You see, the thing about cancer is that it has the potential to spread. Cancer that is localized to just one area is very easy to deal with because once you can ascertain that it's not spread anywhere, you take out that area and then you're good for most cancer cases. But if cervical cancer has spread to the vagina, if it has spread to the uterus, the womb itself, if it's spread to the abdomen, if it's spread to the brain, there really isn't much you can do.
Wow.
Yeah, so yes, it has
the way to the brain.
Yes, it has the potential to spread.
Wow.
Every cancer has the potential to spread. Yes.
Okay. So it's not a localized cancer. It just starts from there, from the cervix. And
starts there, yes. And then there's a risk that it can spread.
Take note. This is scary. So what can we do to prevent it?
Okay. So that's the great news about cervical cancer because we know what causes it, so we know how to prevent it. Now there are vaccines available.
Yes, true.
To protect against the high risk, some high risk HPV. The 16 and 18 subtypes are the most dangerous ones. Okay.
16 and 18 subtypes.
Yes, of HPV.
HPV. Okay.
Yes. So we have vaccines that only take care of that, that vaccinate you against those.
Right.
And then we have vaccines that vaccinate you against those ones, and then other high risk, and then the one that causes genital what?
Okay.
Yes. In more developed countries, they have mechanisms in place to vaccinate their young ones. Vaccination starts from 9 to 14 years and even beyond. Okay. So they have the advantage of vaccination. So in the next 20, 30 years, they probably won't get cervical cancer in advanced stages. But we don't have that. Now, there are some clinics that will provide a vaccine, but it's slightly expensive for an average Ghanaian earning 1,000 cedis a month. You see.
Any idea range, cost range?
It depends. Because it's not subsidized by the government and then it's not readily available, the price fluctuates.
Right.
But you could pay anything from 250 cedis to 400 per shot.
Okay. And how many shots do you need?
As a child, you need 2 shots. As an adult, you need 3.
Okay. Spaced out over a period
depending
of time.
on the time. Could be 0, 1, 6 months or 0 to 6 months.
Okay.
Now, aside vaccination, it could also be through screening. Regular screening for all eligible females. We recommend usually that from 21 years, every female starts screening. You get it? And then you do it as often as your health practitioner tells you to. It can take 2 to 3 years or 5 years. And then also through widespread educational campaigns, because if you don't know what you're fighting, you can't win. So then we make people more aware of it. Yes, and then training more people, making more facilities available. Because like I said with the vaccine, very few people have it. So what if all Ghanaians wanted to get a vaccine and it's not available? You get it? And then centers where you can go to for screening, just for talks and all of that.
So you are big on screening. Keep screening and screening and screening.
And education.
And so they should gain education also from professionals like you. Okay, right. There are some people who actually don't even see, they don't have a practitioner, a health practitioner, they don't have a doctor. You know, they just go through life. How do they know when to go and screen?
Okay, so
your advice though.
So what I would say is that any female at all, in fact anybody listening right now, if you know any female 21 years and above, talk to them about cervical cancer. Let them get screened. If you can afford the vaccine, get the vaccine. You get it? When you hear about institutions giving subsidized screening or free screening, I mean, take advantage of those. A lot of hospitals are doing that this month because it's Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. Okay, get involved with communities, it helps.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one. I was going to ask about virgins, but you've already said that they can also get it by sharing other things.
You see, Ghanaians think that you only have sex when it's penile-vaginal. They think oral sex is not sex, which is really odd. Or anal sex. It counts and you can get it. And HPV actually can cause penile cancer in men and throat cancer in anybody.
Please say it again, let's break it down. Easy.
Yes.
HPV?
Yes, the high risk ones.
Yes.
They can cause anal cancer, they can cause throat cancers, penile cancer.
So
it's not just a woman issue, it's everybody's problem. We should all get involved. And all men can also get screened. Vaccinated for it.
Okay, perfect. What's the age limit for vaccination?
So for the newer vaccine, there's Gardasil 9, up to 45 years you can get vaccinated. But what I usually recommend is that as a woman, before you go and get the vaccine, you test for HPV. You get it? So we didn't talk about the screening methods available, but HPV testing is one of them. And then pap smears and then visual inspection. Now, the most...
Do you have to do all 3 at once?
No. Okay. You can do just one of them. But the one I usually recommend is HPV testing. And that is because it tests for the virus itself. Exactly. Right. So then once you know you don't have the virus, you can wait another 5 years before you test again. Just because it's very slow growing. So you have that option of, a big time gap before you can screen again. Now, for pap smears, the next screening usually 2 to 3 years, depending on what we find. VIA is cheaper, but it's just as good. And mostly you can get it from 10 cedis to 20 cedis. And then for that, you screen again in 2 years. You get
VIA is a pap smear?
No.
I didn't get
So visual inspection is a VIA. And for that, VIA.
Visual inspection
with acetic acid. We just use regular vinegar, we dab it on the cervix, and then we look for a color change. If all is fine, we don't see anything.
But you know how you just said this regular vinegar thing? I'm sure somebody will say they can't do it themselves.
No, you can't do it themselves. You have to see the cervix first. You have to know what a normal cervix is.
I can't do it at home?
No, you can't do it at home.
Can't I let somebody do it for me?
No. Unless he's a doctor. And he has experience in this.
Yes.
So back to the vaccine. it's better if you screen for HPV as a woman before you get the vaccine, because it doesn't cure it.
Okay.
You get it? So if you have it, there's no point going to get the vaccine again.
Really?
You wait for a little while.
Okay.
And then once it clears itself, you can add on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Wow, we have had a good schooling on cervical cancer. I know from here I would probably be chasing her to get to, you know, where you
don't
also
chase me, I'll
practice
chase you.
All right, that is Dr. Priscilla Appiah. And I'm sure you can help us with your contact as well. So
Yes.
anyone out there who, you know, wants any help of some sort, they probably think that they have it, they could have it, whatever it is, they're concerned. We've scared them enough, you know. So if you can give them your contacts, how they can reach you, so that they can easily get some help.
All right, so my organization is on Instagram.
Okay.
You can find us pappis.cci, pappis.cci on Instagram. And then we're also on Facebook.
Okay.
Or you can send
Facebook
us
as?
pappis.cci, same.
Oh, okay, perfect.
All right. We also have an email address that you can reach us to, pappis, pappis.cci@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect.
If you have any questions,
we can reach you
help.
through that. Thank you so much. This has been very enlightening indeed, and you should go out there and check if you have it or not, so that you can get immediate health care, so that you can save your life as well and the lives of your partners or your partner. I'm not encouraging that you have multiple partners, but hey, who am I? All the same, thank you so much, Dr. Priscilla Appiah of Pappis Cervical Cancer Initiative, for joining us.